The regular meeting of the Indianapolis Public Library Board of Trustees is now called to order. Ms. Gilbert, please call the roll.
Mr. Peterman.
Present.
Dr. Matata.
Present.
Dr. Palacio.
Present.
Dr. Payne.
Present.
And Ms. Tribble.
Present. The chair recognizes a quorum. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 2024 meeting of the Indianapolis Board of Public Library Board of Trustees. Thanks for joining us. My name is Hope Tribble. I am a trustee and president of the board. Thank you also to the leadership team here at the Michigan Road branch for hosting our meeting tonight. We are really glad to be here. We are 24 days into the summer reading program, and it's had a fantastic start. I look forward to hearing about the progress of the program during our CEO's report later in the meeting. I'd like to take just a few moments now to highlight some of the activities around the NDPL system that I had a chance to enjoy over this past month. On the first of the month, I had the pleasure of kicking off the summer reading festivities at the College Avenue branch, which is my home branch. Alongside my five-year-old nephew, Grayson, I signed up for the adult summer reading program, and we had a fun time exploring all that the library staff had planned for its patrons. College Avenue, like all our branches, has tailored some programs, games, and crafts to engage our youngest patrons. And it's so nice to see how the Michigan Road branch tonight is fully decked out with playful pet decorations. We are really grateful for the high energy that our staff helps to spark about reading. I have accepted the challenge of the summer reading program to set a goal of at least 20 minutes of reading time each day this summer. And with the help of my audio reader app, because that counts too, I'm doing pretty well. I have 3 books going at once. One is a modern take on Pride and Prejudice. The second is a book about meditation. And the third is Weathering by Dr. Arlene T. Geronimus. I want to say thanks again to the whole NDPL team in every department for your role and your dedication and for working to make every patron visit enriching for readers of all ages, whether in our shipping and receiving team members who ensure delivery to the branches every day, or our program development area who inspire our readers of all ages. The team is working to ensure a successful summer reading program, and it's a good thing. I also want to thank our partners at Indy Humane for their support of summer reading this year. You know, the summer's theme is pets, and they have brought furry friends who have brought happiness and learning opportunities to our community. So thank you, Indy Humane. In addition to the summer reading kickoff, I had the honor of helping celebrate College Avenue branch on a major moment in its history, its 100th birthday, just this past Saturday. This milestone represents what a public library can offer a neighborhood and our entire community from generation to generation. And it was a great celebration. There was music, there were elected and officials, and it was just a really nice time. In June, I also was able to join in honoring the work of our volunteers, who are the lifeblood of our organization. The NDPL Foundation hosted a wonderful event at the Children's Museum, underscoring our gratitude for the time, passion, and dedication of our volunteers who increase our library's resources in meaningful ways. So I was able to chat with some of our volunteers last week, and to see their level of love for NDPL was inspiring. I want to thank the foundations and the volunteer resource team for organizing the program, and thank you to our volunteers again. And I also want to say, as I do that, to take this time to say thank you to my fellow board members who are, for all the work that you do as volunteers, and the time and talent you share with NDPL is really appreciated. So thank you for your kind attention to my remarks. I will now ask our Michigan Road Library Branch Manager, Ms. Denise Malone, who is celebrating 30 years in the NDPL this September, to step forward with the branch report. Welcome, Ms. Malone, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. All right. Well, good evening, President Tribble. Thank you, and members of the Library Board. Welcome to the Michigan Road Branch Library. I hope you all are enjoying our library. Who we are a fun team, as you can see from our picture here at one of our staff meetings. We're made up of librarians. Will Smithers is our juvenile librarian. We also have our public service associates, our library assistant, which includes our search supervisor, Priscilla Bell. She's back there. And we have our computer assistant, 12 volunteers, and 2 of whom are from Pike Library. And then we have some staff from Pike and Nora. So who we serve a diverse community made up of individuals from Latin America, Africa, and Asia. Those are the most populated most countries where the community's from. And we also serve, I forgot to say, we also serve 9 public schools and 5 private schools. We offer many programs. Last year, we had 309 programs, and this slide shows some of the programs. In the upper corner, we have Marion County Health Department. They came to do a program here. We also have a young man enjoying the block party program. And down below, we have our teens who are for the teen poem program led by our public service assistant. So those are some of the programs we have. Now, around the branch, we have various things, and one good thing, we have local hardwood, and the hardwood comes from the trees that were on the site before construction, that was harvested before construction began. The hardwood was used to make furnishings and finishes throughout the building. And the top picture, you see a young lady getting her first library card, and she's right at the hello desk, which is made from the trees that were on the land, that was harvested on the land. Okay? And around the branch, you will also find our seed library, and this is the first year we had the seed library. And by the mid-May, we gave away 5,500 seed packets by May 15th. And our branch was number 3 on the list of the most popular seed library. Okay. So, I'm sorry. So that is what's going on here in Michigan Road Library. And thank you. And do you have any questions for us? Yes,
Denise,
Dr.
I've known you for many, many years, and I remember when this building was dedicated. Thank you for your service and your many years of giving back to the Indianapolis Public Library, even from down at Flanner House.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
indeed.
you, Dr. Matata.
When you think of the different things that you'd still like to see as a part of your vision, what are some things that you feel like we still have something that we want to accomplish?
Well, one thing that I would like to see accomplished, of course, or that we are accomplishing, is getting the youth involved in the library. And through our summer reading program, through our TAG program that we have here, and that's our teen advisory group, we get the youth involved into the different activities that go on at the library, which I like to see.
Even more.
All right. Well, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Oh,
Dr.
any other-
Palacio?
Yeah, thank you for your service and good to see you again.
All right, you too.
My question about the youth, where are they coming from? Is there a particular school or?
So down the street, we have Faye Bacard Glick, which is a community center, family life center, so some come from there. Here, we have a lot of neighborhood families. We offer preschool programs, so around in this community, as well as a little bit further, but yeah.
Okay.
So in this community,
Right.
we get a lot of children.
I don't know, I was just thinking about the Washington Township schools and probably Pike too, but I know the
Yes.
Washington, so,
Right,
Okay.
that's our main,
yeah,
that's where we get mainly, a lot of the children are from Washington Township schools.
very,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Malone.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you again for having us, and thank you for your report.
and your service.
We'll move on to the public comment, and Ms. Gilbert will administer that.
Yes, we do have one speaker this evening. Before she speaks, we have to say we welcome feedback from the public about our Indianapolis libraries, and this is a time when the public may address the library board. If there are several individuals representing the same group, please select a spokesperson. Please note that this public comment time is not the appropriate forum for commenting on matters related to employee charges, employee complaints, or alleged employee misconduct. Any such matters should be brought promptly to the attention of the CEO or the Human Resources Department, where matters can be properly addressed in compliance with established library policies and procedures. A 5-minute limit will be allowed for each speaker. Each speaker should give their name and if they are speaking on behalf of a group. We do have Avi Mon from Tag Teen Advisory Group.
Hi, my name is Avi, and as part of Ms. Malone mentioned, I'm part of the Teen Advisory Group, or TAG, and I just want to give a quick overview of what we do. So we try to increase teen engagement and activity in the library, and we create events such as a writing competition and a scavenger hunt and a board game night, just to kind of include more teens in the library and create more of a community where other teens can, feel safe and welcomed here. My name's Avi. That's Kaylani, Malachi, and then our advisor, Will. You guys should give him a raise. So my name's Avi, and that's just what we do. I'm part of TAG. And thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was the only speaker,
Can we
Ms. Tribble.
Okay.
You
Can we
wanna-
ask
you
you a
wanna ask-
question?
Yeah.
Okay, this is not about giving Will a raise, but it is about, how do you think things are going? How do you measure? Are you getting the kind of participation that you are satisfied with?
Yeah, so I think in our very first event that I was ever a part of, it was a writing competition. I think we had around 5 to 10 entries. And then if you compare it to our last event, a scavenger hunt, I think we had around 15 participants. So you can definitely see a growth, which is, what we're trying to accomplish. So I'd say it's been successful so far.
I certainly want to commend you. I want to commend you a lot for doing this. We've had other branches who have had challenges with the teens. So it looks like you are right in there doing something about it and doing it from the perspective of the teens themselves. So thank you so much for your service.
Thank What school do you go to?
I go to Brebeuf.
Rebuff. Okay, great. Great. Well, thank you. Thanks. Oh, yes, that's fine.
So what motivated you to dedicate your time to do this?
So in middle school, I actually found out about this council, and I realized that ever since COVID, the amount of teenagers, particularly in libraries, have dwindled. And I feel like that was a really important issue that needed to be addressed. And one of the issues surrounding that was a lack of events and activities to draw these teens in. So I thought, why not join a council that's dedicated to this and help out in a way that I see fit? So I feel like that's what I've set out to do, really.
Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
One more.
Yes.
I wanted to get the names again of your colleagues here.
My name's Kaylani. I go to North Central.
Okay, yeah. Very good. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I'm sure. Thank you for your leadership, too.
Great. Okay. Everybody good? We'll move on to approval of the minutes. We have minutes from the regular meeting of the board on May 20th, 2024. Thank you again, TAG members. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held May 20th, 2024?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
The minutes have been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll have the roll call. Ms. Gilbert, please.
Mr. Biederman.
Approved?
Dr. Matata.
Approved.
Dr. Palacio.
Approved.
Dr. Payne.
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble.
Approved.
Thank you.
The motion carries. Our next item, we'll now begin with committee reports. And just a quick word of context, we are going to have two public hearings this evening during the committee reports. One will be during the upcoming Finance Committee report, and the other will be during the Facilities Committee report for items that require public hearings. So we will let you know at the time if there's anyone here who wants to speak on the topics. We'll invite you forward. Now we will have the Finance Committee report. Finance Committee is Dr. Payne, Dr. Palacio, and Dr. White.
Okay, Lolita, our CFO, if you would come, Lolita Campbell, and also our Secretary, Mary Rankin. Please come. I'm sorry, Treasurer, not Secretary, excuse me. Come on, get her right. Oh, that's right, I'm the Secretary. You. Thank you, Ray.
Good evening, Board President Tribble and our trustees. Hope everyone's doing well. Mary and I will present our treasury report for the month ending May of 2024. I will review the revenue, and Mary will review the expenditures. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, for our revenue, the property taxes, we received $2 million. This is a little bit more than we typically will receive in a monthly receipt of revenues. However, in the month of June, if you look on page 24 of our cash flow statement, you'll see in the month of June, we will receive $19.2 million in property taxes, and that will help true us up and bring us back to what we typically budgeted for 6 months into the year for property revenue. For intergovernmental, it's consistent month to month. So this is the same amount we receive every month, $372,000. For charges and for services, public printing has typically been the same. It remains constant. For the month of May, we received $32,000. And for miscellaneous interest, for total year-to-date, which is quite high, we're doing well, very favorable. We received $645,000 for up to date to the month of May. For the month of May itself, we receive $125,000 in interest, and that is due to our sweep account that we have with Chase. Our investment report is on page 26. If you want to review our interest, our Hoosier funds have 5.4% interest, and our Trust Indiana has 5.34%. As of right now, totally for the month of May, we received 12% of our 12% of our revenue that we have budgeted for. But again, as I stated in June, we should be trued up by that time. So look forward to receiving our June report. On this next slide, it's another way of presenting it on the graphs. We have a sliding graph here. The gray is our monthly budget, and the orange is the May for 2023, and the blue is for May of 2024. You see that May is May of 2023 is a little slightly higher in property taxes because last year this time we received a little bit more of our property taxes in the month of May. And then if you look at the second graph under miscellaneous revenue, you'll see that the blue is a little higher in that graph. That's where we're receiving more interest for May of 2024. Any questions in regards to revenue? Okay, now Mary will present the expenditures.
The expenditures for the month of May, the largest category is personal services and benefits, and that's remains running low, below its monthly budget that had been set forth. The supplies, a little bit high, but it's within budget. Other services and charges, the largest part was paying for Polaris, our computer services for the library, and then cleaning services and security, which has increased contractually. Capital outlay is consistent with last year, and overall, all expenses are under 42%, which is the ratio of the number of months of the year. So it's favorable at 36% of the budget spent. And then we have the graphs for the month of May comparing to the budget is gray. So, and this is by type on the left. And then in total over on the right. So personal services and benefits, you can see in the graph on the left that the gray, the budget is higher than what we're experiencing, which is the blue. And then the prior year was somewhat less for May of 2023. And supplies are a small part of our budget. Other services and charges, we're doing well with budget and capital outlay. A little bit higher than our monthly budget, but for the year to date is fine. As you can see on the right with the line chart. Any question on expenditures?
Just a quick question. Can you elaborate a bit on the services and charges since we've gone up?
Well, we entered into some contracts for security. We've had increased needs for security, and so those expenses are higher. And then also cleaning services. I think we wanted to make sure that the contractors were paying fair wages to their staff as well.
Thank you, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And on this graph, here you'll see the 5-year review for the revenue and expenditures. And this is just another way of reflecting what we were shown on the previous slides.
That revenue is lower because we haven't received the May, do you think the May property tax? allotment?
We regularly receive it in June.
Right.
Okay.
So that's why it's consistent from last year.
But this is last year at this time, or is this? Because last year at this time, we were significantly higher, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do we know what makes up that difference?
Last year, I did do the research. Last year, we received a advancement of the property taxes, and
Okay.
it fell in just in that month.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it, great, thank you.
you're welcome.
And then the, like,
Expenditure.
$1.5 million difference between 23 and 24 on the expenditure, that's just the Polaris thing? What is that?
Yes, it could be the Polaris. We also got an increase in wages. Depends on which reviewing. Are you reviewing?
Just the total?
The total.
Looking at this is higher.
Yes,
Okay,
for the month of May, yes.
I think it's the,
It's a,
cool. Thank you.
Collections material is much higher.
yeah, contractual material,
Yes.
the capital. Any questions in regards to the treasury report?
That concludes the treasury report.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion? Thank you for the report. Is there a motion to accept the report of the treasurer for May 2024 for filing for audit?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call to accept the report of the treasurer.
Mr. Biederman,
Approved?
Dr. Matata,
Approved.
Dr. Palacio,
Approved.
Dr. Payne,
Approved.
and Ms. Tribble.
Approved. The motion carries. Thank you. So 2 of the items that the board will hear during this finance committee do require a public hearing. Those are the 2024 long-term capital maintenance and equipment update project and appropriation of the proceeds from that issuance for long-term capital maintenance and equipment update. So I'll ask our CFO, Ms. Alita Campbell, and our municipal advisor, Jason Tunzel from Baker Tilly, and Hannah Clendenning, who is our bond counsel from Barnes and Thornburg, to come forward, and I'm going to officially convene the public hearing, and the first part of that hearing will be the report. So do I have to recess?
Take a motion to open a public hearing.
May I have a motion to convene a public hearing?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we need- Okay, and we'll do it by voice vote. All approve, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I am now convening a public hearing on the 2024 Long-Term Capital Maintenance and Equipment Update Project and the appropriation of proceeds from the 2024 Long-Term Capital Maintenance and Equipment Update Project bonds. So please proceed with the
Can you
presentation.
repeat that for
I
us?
can.
Thank you, President Tribble. Again, I'd like to introduce Jason Tanzel. He is our municipal bond advisor with Baker Tilly. He will review our bonds. Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. My name is Jason Tanzel with Baker Tilly. With me is my colleague, Lacey Vachon, and we do represent the library as your municipal advisor, and we assist with the issuance of your bonds. So tonight you have resolutions before you that summarizes how the library could issue a $6,350,000 general obligation bond that would pay for some long-term capital needs throughout the library. And we have a brief presentation that will summarize the information within your resolutions and how the library anticipates issuing this bond yet this year in 2024. and that this bond will be within its long-standing tax rate goal of 3.18 cents. So we do have a presentation, but please feel free to stop me at any time if there's anything that you would like more information on as we go through the slides. So with that, we will go to slide 2. And actually, before we go into slide 2, I do want to point out that within your resolutions, we have maximums. And so it's important to keep in mind that some of the numbers that you see within those resolutions are maximums that we would be establishing here tonight. And these are always maximums that we can come down from. We just can't exceed. So as we go through the numbers, just keep that in mind. So now we'll go to slide 2 that summarizes the 9 bonds that are currently outstanding of the library. Each bond is represented by its own individual color. I won't go through all 9 bonds, but you can see in its totality the debt service payments of the library in 2024 are approximately $18.5 million. You can see that this is declining in 2025 and that all debt of the library is repaid within 6 years, 2030. And so it's important to understand that the total payments of the library are a main driver of its debt service tax rate. And so you could see here that to the extent that payments would be declining, we would also anticipate the debt service tax rate to decline. And so the library, with bonds coming to maturity, has the ability to replace some of these bonds as they come to maturity for additional new bonds if it so desires to replace these payments and staying within its debt service tax rate of 3.18 cents. Our next slide is the library's general obligation debt limit. And the bonds that the library is considering this evening are general obligation bonds, and there is a limitation as to how much the library can issue. This limitation is 2% of 1/3 of your most recent net assessed value, which you can see is quite substantial for 2024 of just over $57 billion. And so you can see once we factor in the remaining outstanding debt of the library of $54.8, that there is approximately $327 million available for general obligation bonds. So the borrowing amount being discussed here tonight fits within that parameter, as our borrowing amount is $6,350,000. Here, slide 10 is a summary of the financial parameters that you will see within your resolutions. Again, maximums are being established tonight, and you can see that we are establishing a maximum borrowing amount of $6,350,000 to pay for these long-term capital needs of the library. We are estimating that this bond will be issued yet this year in October of 2024. And right now we are looking at a 4-year repayment term, but within your resolutions, you would see a 7-year maximum just to provide the library with flexibility should something unforeseen happen. The estimated interest expense of $680,000 is also based upon a maximum interest rate of 5.5%. Today, the bond market is more closely aligned with 4%, so we do feel like we are being conservative with the 5.5% interest rate estimate. And again, as we've talked about, in 2025, we are estimating the debt service tax rate to be 3.18 cents, which has been the library's goal for the last decade plus. And my final slide, slide 11, is another graph that shows the proposed repayment term of this year's 2024 general obligation bond. The blue bars represent the payments that we saw on slide 2 that summarize the 9 bonds outstanding. The red bars represent the proposed 4-year repayment term of this year's bonds, and our line running through the middle of those bars represents our debt service tax rate projections, which again, as you can see, in 2025 being the 3.18 cents, and that as we talked about, with declining debt service payments, we would also anticipate a decline in the library's debt service tax rate. And really just want to point out that with all debt being repaid within the next 6 years, quite a substantial drop in payments, the library does have flexibility down the road should any unforeseen capital plans arise. So with that, I have concluded the financial part of the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board has at this time. Thank you very much. I will turn it back over to Ms.
Did you have a question? Sorry, Dr. Velasquez.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, Jason.
Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Is it you said that if we were to pay everything by 2030, is it that we don't have access then to that? What is it, the debt service payment
You would-
funding?
That's a great question. If all of the debt service payments came to maturity, you would still have access to borrow. It's just that the library's tax rate in 2031 would be 0. And so that's not our problem. It's just you would still have access to it. And so if it's not like once the bonds mature, we don't have access to it. It's just that the tax rate would fall. And then if you were to issue a bond in 2031 and have a new payment, then that tax rate would increase at that time.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, you're welcome.
We have 9 outstanding bonds.
That is correct.
And as we think about the 9 outstanding bonds and that debt service, the tax rate, you said again and again, is 3.18 cents. Why would we take on such another as large as what you're describing?
The library has the opportunity, or not opportunity, the ability to, if it so chooses. The library does not have to borrow if it doesn't want to keep that tax rate. The declining payments again correspond with the declining rate. And so if the library were to choose to let that rate fall, that's absolutely within its ability to do so.
That's what I was thinking. And so what's the recommendation that's being made?
For this evening, the library is looking, there's a list of projects that include roofing, includes technology, and it includes, I believe, some garage improvements. And so for tonight's $6,350,000, that's what the library is considering for tonight.
Yeah.
And with this bond, this allows us to not use our operating fund, to use our bond fund to cover these capital projects.
So a lot of this will be maintenance and upkeep of
Of the
our
buildings or any
our
capital.
assets and buildings.
So I go back to my question previously. So is it that then we wouldn't have access to that source of funding? We would have to use the operational funding.
That if the library were to not pursue the $6,350,000, then if the library wanted to address those capital needs, it would come from its operating fund. Correct.
I think that this table on slide 8 basically shows you how our capacity to bond more is growing as we pay down our debt on the existing bonds. So, and what usually happens is if there are capital needs, then we would borrow more. I mean, and as you know, Jason has done a review of all of our facilities and already has a list of projects that bonding could be used for.
Thank you. I understand it, yeah.
You're very welcome. I appreciate the questions.
Any other questions?
Just a comment. So I asked because it's a public hearing, so I think it's important that the public knows the dynamics. So I get the access and all that, but I think it's also important that the public knows, because it sounds very nice when you present it.
Thank you.
I have to bring some other aspects out so the public is more knowledgeable about the dynamics of how this works.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate the questions.
Okay.
I will turn it back over to Ms. Kimball.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to present the resolution for 25-2024 and 26-2026. Hannah Klinderling from Barnes and Thornsburg. No? Oh. Am I?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Over to me.
Hello.
Good
Good evening, everyone. My name's Hannah Clendenning from Barnes & Thornburg. My colleague Jeff Qualkenbush and I have worked closely with the library for this transaction as bond counsel and on several transactions in the past. So tonight, as we've been talking, we have two different resolutions in front of you. One, I think it's number 25, is to approve the actual issuance of the bonds. And number 26 is to approve the appropriation for the bond proceeds and the interest earnings thereon, similar to how you would do for your regular budget process. Just sort of an overview of the legal process with the issuance of these bonds. So we are here tonight following a recommendation from the Finance Committee that met earlier this month to pass these two resolutions. Should the board then approve these two resolutions tonight, the library team would take steps to file the necessary documents with the City County Council, who then, under Indiana statute, would be required to approve their own bond ordinance and additional appropriation ordinance in connection with this same project. I believe we are intending to go to the City County Council at their July meeting to introduce, and then the Municipal Corporations Committee following that. The council would then, in theory, approve those ordinances at their August meeting with the hope of then selling in September and closing in October. So that's kind of the general overview. This is nearly identical to the same process that you guys have done in the past for these transactions, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Okay. Thank you.
Proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Is this yours?
Okay. Is that the end of the presentation? Okay. So having heard the presentation, this is a public hearing, and we do welcome and invite public commentary or comments on Resolution 24 and Resolution 25 and 26 regarding the issuance of bonds and the appropriation of that funding. Are there any? Does anyone in the audience wish to speak? Okay. So hearing none, I will consider a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
In a second, okay. Having heard the presentation and convened a public hearing, and to have now we'll move on to actually.
You did take a voice vote on the motion to close it.
Okay, all in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll move forward. The public hearing is now closed, and now we'll look at Resolution 25, 2024, which authorizes the Indianapolis Public Library to issue bonds for the purpose of providing funds to pay for the 2024 long-term capital maintenance and equipment update and project and related expenses. You've heard the presentations, and the Finance Committee has recommended the approval of this resolution. So I will request a second to such recommendations.
Second.
Is there any further discussion on Resolution 25, 2024? Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Gilbert to call the roll, please.
Mr. Biederman.
Approved?
Dr. Matata.
Approved.
Dr. Palacio.
Approved.
Dr. Payne.
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble.
Approved.
Thank you.
The motion passes. Move on to Resolution 26 regarding the Indianapolis Public Library appropriation of the 2024 long-term capital maintenance and equipment update project funding, which also received a recommendation from the Finance Committee, so I will request a second to that recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Biederman.
Approved?
Dr. Matata.
Approved.
Dr. Palacio.
Approved.
Dr. Payne.
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble.
Approved. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Lolita, now we're moving on to Resolution 27. 2024.
Yes, this resolution comes out of the IT department. I'd like to invite Ms. Shanika Hayward up.
Hello, Ms. Haywood.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'll be bringing to you Resolution 27 for Public Service Initiative. I'm requesting approval to purchase 57 patron service self-checkout machines. Our initial self-checkout machines was purchased in 2004, so they're about 16 to 20 years old. The cost for the 57 self-checkout machines is $200,815, and this was approved out of the Finance Committee. And also in your bar, it's a special note for wording that the library determined to utilize the special purchasing method available under the Indiana Code 5-2210-8 due to our substantial savings to the library. Do I have any questions there?
Thank you. Are there any questions?
And the picture is at Fort Bend. That's their self-checkout machines, what they look like.
So do we have these self-checkouts in all branches currently?
We do not. We only currently have it at the Fort Bend and Glendale. The goal is to deploy them at all the other locations.
So we'll be updating those, and then we'll have it system-wide.
Absolutely, if
Awesome.
approved.
It's awesome. Okay. No discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the roll, please. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. I'm sorry. The Resolution 27, 2024, regarding the approval for purchase of 57 patron self-checkout machines, received a positive recommendation from the Finance Committee, so the chair would request a second to such recommendation.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, now we'll call the roll.
Mr. Biederman.
Approved.
Dr. Matada.
Approved.
Dr. Palacio.
Approved.
Dr. Payne.
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble.
Approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayward, for continuing to move us forward.
Thank you.
It's
Thanks, everyone.
awesome.
Thank you.
Our next resolution is 28, 2024.
Yes, for the next two resolutions comes out of CMSA, and I'd like to invite Ms. Deb Lambert up for her to present these two resolutions.
Good evening.
Ooh, it's sticky tonight, isn't it? I'm bringing forth two renewals that have been annually brought to the board. The first one is for OCLC cataloging, metadata, and interlibrary loan subscription. This allows our cataloging team and our interlibrary loan team to operate on a daily basis, to create our catalog and to request materials from other libraries across the country. The subscription continues to grow annually, and this year was originally quoted at $140,000. But we are expressing our concern about the cost and managed to get them down 23% to $107,000 and change, almost $108,000. But this is a temporary measure. I'm not sure what it's going to look like next year, but we are looking at alternatives to this utility because of the continued high expenses. So we're asking for approval of this out of the operating budget.
Thank you. Good, so Resolution 28, were you going to do both of them together? Was there a second one? Or
they're separate.
They're different, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Resolution 28, 2024, annual OCLC cataloging, metadata, and ILL subscription services. Received a positive recommendation from the Finance Committee, so the chair would request a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Are there any questions? Yes, Dr.
Just a quick
Murtada.
question. You were able to negotiate a cheaper price, or a better price, let's just say, What are you anticipating for the future? Can you get a sense of that? Or are we moving to a different system, a
Like I
different
said-
organization?
We're looking at alternatives. OCLC has had a monopoly on this service for many years, but there are new competitors coming out now that I think is making them look better twice at their pricing, especially for public libraries. So we're going to keep an eye on the market. We're going to test other products to see if they're suitable for us, and we'll continue to negotiate based on new competitive alternatives that are out there.
Are our peer institutions using this same system?
I have a conversation with the Cuyahoga County Public Library this week to talk about their experience with the alternative, but this has been a monopoly, and libraries have been using this for decades, OCLC.
It might be useful to us to check with some of our peer institutions that are also chairing, just like you just said, you've checked with one already, what
Yep.
other peers are using before, I mean, we're going to approve this, but, I think we're going to approve this, but as we go forward and pricing around, see who else has been using other
Yep.
systems.
We are keeping an eye. We have actually been testing alternative systems for 4 years, but they were not ready for our size library, but they're now getting to that point where they are.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Dr. Palacio, did you have a question?
No, but thanks. I was going to bring up the same topic that Dr. Murtada brought up about the almost 20% discount or negotiation, but thanks, you already talked about it. Appreciate you doing that.
About how many items or materials are loaned or borrowed using this? Do you
Through
know?
interlibrary loan, I don't have those numbers. That's actually under public services, and I don't have it memorized. I
Okay.
have looked at it recently. I'm thinking it was about 8,000 that we lent to other libraries last year, and about 6,000 that our patrons borrowed from other libraries.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, Angie, please call the roll.
Mr. Peterman.
Approved?
Dr. Murtada.
Approved.
Dr. Palacio.
Approved?
Dr. Payne. And Ms. Tribble.
Approved. The motion carries.
Great. So the next resolution is Resolution 29, and this is for funding the Marion County Internet Library by accepting the grant provided from CICF Library Fund. It funds 14 databases, and we are the grant administrator for this, and we are not the only recipient of this. It is used by all of the high school libraries and eligible university libraries in Marion County. So it's got quite a bit of usage, and it is paid for by a grant from from the CICF Library Fund. We annually go through a process of application with them to evaluate the usage and the cost of the databases to make sure that they were getting a good return. We also get input from the Marion County Internet Library Advisory Board, which includes a member of each of the institutions that participate with a couple of high school representatives on that committee to make sure that we are using the dollars effectively on the best resources for the schools. These are mostly homework and education resource databases. So we're asking for approval to spend the fundings that we've received from CICF to pay the vendors for the databases.
Thank you. So Resolution 29, Marion County Internet Library Grant Acceptance and Database Renewals, also received a favorable recommendation from the Finance Committee, so I would request a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion, or are there any questions?
I have a question. So it says that we act as the fiscal agent for purchasing, and we help patrons with authentication, setup, and technical support. So just to be clear for all the powers that be, we do not decide what goes in the database. We don't administer what people have access to in the database. We just get people signed up, we provide technical support, and we manage the money.
Correct. We don't create the content for the database. We buy subscriptions to these databases and their content.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Dr. Palacio?
That when you and the team are figuring out what to put in the grant proposal, is it the same list every year, or do you go back and try to reselect what's current or what's needed?
We do revisit the list every year, look at the usage, talk to members of the community that use it, of the various high schools and universities, to make sure these are still meeting their needs. If there's a new resource out there, we will do trials for them and have not only our staff test them out, but the university and high schools will test them out to see if those are more useful for us. So far, we haven't changed anything in a few years, but we do look at that annually. I should say that the funds were reduced by about $100,000 this year. There's a new advisory team for library fund, and they wanted to be able to fund other things. So we did drop a database, the Science and Context database, which was getting very low usage, and it was a high cost.
That's good to know.
Okay.
Thank you, and I also want to say thanks to CICF for the funding, even if it went down a little bit.
Any other questions? Okay. So the motion for Resolution 29 has been moved and seconded. We've had the discussion, so we'll have the roll call, please, Ms. Gilbert.
Mr. Biederman.
Approved?
Dr. Matada.
Approved.
Dr. Palacio.
Approved.
Dr. Payne.
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble.
Approved.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that covers it for the finance committee. No, you have more? I thought we were moving to DPHR.
More.
I still have more on my PowerPoint though.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're only half done.
Please,
We're only
okay.
half done with this.
Okay, so I just want to provide a brief update on our 2023 audit. We're almost done with it. We hopefully will have a presentation to the board by July or August. We're just wrapping up the audit right now, and then we're currently in our budget season, so we will have a a budget presentation to the board in August as well. I just want to give this brief, high-level, board briefing report for significant expenditures, assumptions. This is just a high level of the budget, nothing in the details, nothing in the grass. So for the Character 1 personnel expenses, during our budget meetings, we noticed that there would be approximately increase for salaries and benefits around almost 5%. That's about $1.9 million. We're still trying to figure out what merit increases we want to give. So we kind of budgeted between 2.5% to 4% of our merit increases. But then we also we want to complete the implementation of the $18 good wage initiative. And also, we also have some salary adjustments in our budget. Then our health insurance, of course, is going to increase about 7.6%. That is just an estimate right now. We're still going through the negotiation part. And I skipped one, the Sunday premium hours. We're implementing this as well. And then we have, of course, the FICA and the PERF, for the Character 1. Then for Character 2, the supplies, of course, has increased significantly, gradually increasing significantly, But right now, we estimate it's going to be about 4.85% increase. It could be more, but these are just a high-level review. Then for Character 3, for the other services and charges, we estimate that's going to be a close to 10% increase, 9.68% or $1.5 million. And that is due to repair and maintenance, professional development conferences, because we're implementing a new policy procedure for conferences, and then also increase in the translating library signage and promotional material for the library. And then the capital outlay seems to be constant, but we're going to do an increase of 0.5% because it seems to remain flat. And this, again, is just a quick overview of the budget. just a high level, so we can inform the board how everything's going. But we are going to do a budget presentation in August. That's it. I promise, that's it.
Okay, thank you, and I'm
You're
sorry to rush you.
It's
I
okay.
knew that was the end of our resolution, so thank you so much, Ms.
Anyone have any
Campbell, for the
questions?
report. Yes, are there any questions for Ms. Campbell?
9.68% for other services and charges, including our repairs and maintenance. It's going to be quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about translating library signage, but primarily the repair and maintenance cost. It's going to be quite a jump.
Yeah, and Adam, is he here? He can kind of probably speak to some of these repair and maintenance. No, maybe not. Don't worry about it. We'll talk about it in August.
How does the health insurance increase compare with other similar organizations? Is it 7%?
Yeah, about 7.16, and that's just an estimate right now.
Yeah.
Tisha and I are just going through the whole process
Sure.
of trying to negotiate. So I'm hoping that is not too much more than this, but I guess it's incomparable to other people in the market as well.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, Ms. Campbell, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great job. You've been busy.
Yes, very much. Thank you.
We appreciate you. All right. We'll move on to the Diversity Policy and Human Resources Committee report. The DPHR committee is chaired by Mr. Raymond Biederman and Dr. Louis Palacio and Dr. Patricia Payne are members. Mr. Biederman?
Yeah, so last month I promised several resolutions according to the meeting minutes, and I am happy to report we have several resolutions for today. All right, do you want to take
All
over?
right.
Yep, we are ready.
All right, hold on. There you go. So I'm here to present resolutions 30-2024, resolution 31-2024, resolution 32-2024, all of them related to the Sunday policy. So this is a joint recommendation. So the resolution 30-2024 is to amend and rename the Sunday policy in our policy manual. The resolution 31-2024 is to amend Article 5 for the Staff Association. And the resolution 32-2024 is to amend section 23.3 for the collective bargaining agreement. So what are the difference between the policies? Our current policy is a Sunday credit. Employees receive 1.5 Sunday credit hours whenever they work on a Sunday. We are proposing to change it to time and a half for hours work, up to 6 hours for branches, and then up to 8 hours work on InfoZone. The difference between the branches and InfoZone is the hours that they're open. So branches are normally open 4 hours, if InfoZone is open for the regular business hours at the Children's Museum. So that's all I got for that. Questions?
These were jointly recommended by the committee, so it would probably be appropriate to ask for consent of the board to consider the 3 resolutions in one motion.
Okay. And they are all accomplishing the same thing
It's just to
for
change the
the
language.
different, the union and the staff association, and then revising the language in their policies. So Resolution 30, 31, and 32 all relate to approving changes to payment, compensation for Sunday premium pay. Do I have consent to take all 3 of those together?
Yes.
Okay. So hearing consent, I will now note that the DPHR committee favorably recommended all 3 of these resolutions, and so I would like to request a second for such recommendations?
Second.
Okay, so it's been seconded. So is there any discussion or are there any questions about these resolutions? Dr. Palacio?
Thanks. Where did this number 6 come up? Like, what's the reasoning behind 6?
Normally, employees have different hours of their schedule, so visiting branches, because not all the branches are open, visitor branches are scheduled 4 hours, and then the home branches are scheduled 6 hours. So it still have a little bit of knowing how much we're going to spend on the Sundays.
And then Ms. Galarce, we did this prior change where folks would receive an hour and a half for each hour worked, maybe a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And just wondering if you can talk a little bit about why we're revisiting this time. What did you find? Or
Yeah, we received feedback from both the staff association and the union that employees were not satisfied with the Sunday credit hours. So we're trying to revise something that it will be a little bit more favorable for the staff that work on Sundays.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, so hearing none, we are ready for a roll call on resolutions 30, 31, and 32 regarding premium pay, Sunday premium pay.
Mr. Biederman.
Approve?
Dr. Murtada.
Approved.
Dr. Palacio.
Approved.
Dr. Payne.
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble.
Approved. All three carry unanimously. Those are your several.
I have one
There's
more.
one more.
There's one more?
I have.
Several.
I have Resolution 33-2024 for the approval of the addition of policy of 112, library records, and the deletion of policy 115, 130.3, 130.4, and 130.5. The changes in the policy is to delete those languages. They are going to be added to the new policy. And then to clarify, adding emails, personal and professional, while conducting business for the library. So that will also be added to the language in the policy on the retention. And then to clarify who is going to be responsible to provide and retain the information based on the retention policy that we have. The reasons why we are doing this is to comply with the requirements of the Indiana Code and to maintain and retain, when appropriate, provide the information needed or requested easily.
Okay. Do you have a question, Dr. Murtada? Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Dr. Palacio?
So is also training provided for the team about these changes and how this affect them?
We will provide information on how we are going to move forward with the retention of the policy on the information.
And just note for board members that this policy also applies to board members in terms of our record keeping and retention. Okay. So Resolution 33, 2024, regarding the approval of library records, deletion policies, did receive a positive recommendation from the Diversity Policy and Human Resources Committee, so the chair would request a second to such recommendation. Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Biederman.
Approve?
Dr. Murtada.
Approved.
Dr. Palacio.
Approved.
Dr. Payne.
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble.
Approved.
That's all.
That's it?
That's all.
Any further?
Yeah, so next month, we're gonna have a couple more things. So
Okay.
it's gonna be exciting next month, too. So that's what I know.
Okay.
And specifically, one thing that will be considered by the DPHR committee next month will be an amendment to the bylaws that would be in relationship to, in coordination with the update to travel procedures. Your bylaws require that any bylaw amendment either be unanimously approved or be given 14 days advance notice. So we are of the opinion that this notice is your 14-day notice, that there will be consideration of amendment to the bylaws on those matters next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Galarce. On to the Facilities Committee report. The Facilities Committee is chaired by Dr. Eugene White, and Dr. Carla Murtada is the member. Dr. White's absent tonight, so in his absence, I'll ask Dr. Murtada to manage the report.
Thank you. I'd ask Adam Parsons to come forward to discuss our resolution 35-2024. Thank you, Adam.
All right, the first resolution for this committee is Resolution 35-2024. There's the clicker. Approval to award a construction services contract for the Beech Grove Branch Chiller Replacement Project. So the current chiller was installed in 2001. That makes it 23 years old. It has currently reached end of life, and further repairs, the sum total of further repairs would exceed the cost of replacement. Overview of our vendor outreach, public notice, direct outreach, invitation to bid posted on our website, bid documents available at Reprographics, and we had a pre-bid conference. We used the invitation to bid process per the Public Works statute. We received 4 bids following that statute, awarding to the lowest responsive and most responsive and responsible bidder, and that is Ellis Mechanical. The awarded cost of $181,000 is less than the architect's estimate of $250,000. This will be funded via the 2021 bond, and that is Fund 485. Ellis Mechanical is not a city-certified XBE and will self-perform 85% of the work. The other 15% will come from another non-XBE, and that is for testing and balancing upon installation. The XBE utilization waiver as part of the XBE process was approved by the manager of purchasing and supplier diversity. We've had questions about how this will affect overall XBE utilization. So for reference, the 2024 Q1 operational services XBE utilization is 49%. I think there's one word in there, the rest were acronyms. So in Q1 of this year, 1.8 out of 3.7 million have been spent on XBE via competitive spending. Schedule, there's a 32-week lead time for this chiller. Goal is to have it installed by March 1st of 2025, so that's in approximately 8 months. And we estimate a branch closure similar to the Warren branch closure. Late last year, when they had their air handlers installed, we estimate a multi-week branch closure, and we will work with communications to ensure our patrons are informed. Any questions?
I have a question. Looking at the 4 bids that we received, it's quite a span from this 181 to 253. I mean, what was accounting for that? I mean, what made the difference? Was it?
I'm unsure. These were lump sum bids, so I don't know if it was labor or parts or subcontractors. We did not ask because the spread, although there was some variation, they were all within a decently sized about 20% of each other, maybe 25. But as a lump sum bid, they're not required to break out by line item their costs.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions?
clarification, is the architects the one to produce that $250,000 number, right?
Yeah, that was our initial estimate when we, excuse me, when we created the line item for the bond, and the architects agreed with that when they put together the bid documents.
And then the bids came wherever they came, and you chose the. Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you. So this is,
It's moved out of the Facilities Committee
Yes.
and comes to the board for approval of this resolution.
yes, we're on Resolution 35 for approval to award a construction services contract for Beech Grove Branch Chiller Replacement Project. And as Dr. Murtada said, it has been favorably approved by the Facilities Committee, so the chair would request a second to the recommendation.
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to mention that we asked, and Adam and his staff answered our questions because we were concerned about the XBE, but knowing that due diligence was done to approve and move this forward, we felt it necessary to move it forward. So thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, we'll have the roll call, please.
Mr. Biederman.
Approved.
Dr. Matada.
Approved.
Dr. Palacio.
Approved.
Dr. Payne.
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble.
Approved. So we'll move on to Resolution 36.
Okay. Resolution 36-2024, approval to award a construction services contract for the Library Services Center roof replacement project. So the roof was installed as part of the original construction of the Library Services Center in 1993, so it is 31 years old. Similar to the Beech Grove chiller, future repair would outweigh the costs of replacement. Additionally, part of this project is to prep the roof for a solar array installation early to mid next year. This was an invitation to bid, public notice, and direct outreach to vendors. It was posted on our website. Bid documents were available at Reprographics, and we had a pre-bid conference. Following the Public Works statute, we received 5 bids, again awarding to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, and that was Skyline Roofing. Their bid amount, including the 2 alternates, was $609,170, which was below the budgeted amount of $700,000. This project will be funded via the 2022 bond, and that is Fund 486. The vendor is not a city-certified XBE and will self-perform 60% of the work. They will utilize one company who is an MBE, and they will provide 40% of the work. By work, I mean contracted amount, not actual labor. And they're purchasing 40% of the contracted amount via material supply. The XBE utilization waiver was approved by the manager of purchasing and supplier diversity, and again, the 49% XBE usage through the first 3 months of this year for this department. This has a mere 8-week lead time for material delivery, substantial completion the day before Halloween this year, and no projected closure time for LSC, as we should be able to replace the roof without building closure. Any questions?
Thank you.
This passed out of our committee, and we move it forward to the board for approval.
Hearing that the committee has recommended approval of Resolution 36, 2024, to award a construction services contract for the Library Services Center roof replacement project, I request a second to such recommendation.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
I'm gonna get you all. What's all of this stuff? Adam, thank you. Don't mind this delay, please.
All right, so the resolution has been moved and seconded. Hearing no discussion or questions, please call the roll.
Mr. Biederman.
Approved.
Dr. Matata.
Approved.
Dr. Palacio.
Approved.
Dr. Payne.
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble.
Approved. The motion carries unanimously. Now, I mentioned we will now convene the second public hearing related to the offer of, considering the offer of granting a fee simple and temporary right-of-way to Indigo related to the Blue Line, and then also, well, there are two parcels that we will be responding to Indigo's offer. And so I will request a motion to convene a public hearing. For this. And a second, please.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, I am now convening a public hearing. And I will ask Mr. Parsons to give us the information about the resolutions at hand.
Sure. The first one is Resolution 37-2024. I will read the full title for clarification. Resolution 37 is authorization to grant temporary and fee simple right-of-way to Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation, Indigo, for 2726 and 2810 East Washington Street, the East Washington Street branch, Indianapolis, Indiana. I'll go through this, and then I'll go through the other resolution separately. So, for background, Indigo is expanding their bus rapid transit system. The Blue Line runs approximately from the Indianapolis Airport to Cumberland, mostly along Washington Street, where we have 2 branches. I will quote this directly from the resolution. Indigo has determined that it is necessary to acquire 784 square feet of land from IndyPL in fee simple right-of-way at the East Washington branch, and an additional 1,360 square feet of land on a temporary right-of-way for the completion of the project. To the right of the screen is a somewhat ambiguous, since there's no building there, but it is the parcel layout of the East Washington Street branch, which shows both the fee simple and temporary right-of-way projects. This will have minimal to no impact on the operations of the library branch. The impacts, it will benefit patrons and staff with easier access to facilities and services. There will be no ongoing fiscal impacts. Compensation is $8,500, which was determined through a legal appraisal process. It will promote equity in the community by increasing the opportunity to utilize public transportation, whether required or desired, and saving public funds to initially agreeing to this offer. That's the end of Resolution 37. Did you want me to review 38 as well?
They're similar, it's the same.
Extremely similar.
concept, so we don't need to- you guys
There's
okay
only
with
one
me?
slide difference, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So to formally say this, Resolution 38-2024, authorization to grant temporary and fee simple right-of-way to Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation for 5625 East Washington Street, or the Irvington branch. So there's the same background. Indigo has determined it is necessary to acquire 593 square feet of land from IndyPL in fee simple right-of-way at the East Washington branch, and an additional 244 square feet of land on a temporary right-of-way for the completion of the project. Again, a somewhat ambiguous parcel diagram. That is the northeast corner of the Irvington branch lot, showing both the fee simple and the temporary rights-of-way that are being requested. Again, the same benefits to patrons and staff. $2,300 is the offer from Indigo, again, using the appraisal process. Same DEI impacts of promoting equity and increasing opportunities to utilize public transportation.
here is that there was a public hearing, June 14th. The hearing was conducted prior to consideration of the resolution. That's language that was added. Thank you, Adam.
Public, to be clarified, is public notice of tonight's public hearing was on the 14th.
And then for the lawyers in the room, can you just, the language, I understand what's happening. We're giving a parcel, or part of the land related to these two branches to Indigo. What is this language, fee simple and temporary right-of-way mean, please?
So fee simple would be actual ownership. You will actually transfer ownership of the property to Indigo. So you're reducing the square footage of ownership that's owned by NDPL. The temporary grant of right-of-way would be for construction easement, their opportunity to construct. They need to come onto your property for a period of time to conduct those construction activities. So one is you're permanently granting them that right. The other is a temporary grant. And there are differing compensation based on whether it's a permanent grant or a temporary grant.
Thank you. Okay, we will now convene, we are in the public meeting. So at this point in the public meeting, we will invite the public to comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment on the matters at hand? Okay, seeing none, I will consider a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
If there's a second, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed, and we'll now move to consider resolutions 37 and 38. May I have consent to, do we need to do them separately, council? Are we
you can do
okay?
them jointly.
Pretty close, yeah. Okay, may I have consent to take both resolution 37 and resolution 38 together?
So moved.
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Yes.
Just consent.
No, it's just consent, I'm sorry. Okay, so, Resolution 37, authorization to grant temporary and fee simple right-of-way to Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation, Indigo, for 2726 and 2810 East Washington Street, which is the East Washington Street branch. And Resolution 2824, authority to grant temporary and fee simple right-of-way to Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation, Indigo, for 5625 East Washington Street, Irvington Branch. Both of these resolutions received positive recommendations from the Facilities Committee, so the chair would request a second to such recommendation.
Second.
Okay, now is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask Angie to call the roll, please.
Mr. Biederman.
Approved?
Dr. Matata.
Approved.
Dr. Palacio.
Approved.
Dr. Payne.
Approved.
And Ms. Tribble.
Approved. So the motion carries and both resolutions are passed unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Do you have any additional?
May I ask?
Yes.
The Glendale branch, and this may not be a question for you, it may be for our CEO, I'm not sure. But there was a period of time when there was a problem and the branch had to close and reopen and close again. And I didn't know if that was the fault of a vendor or why was that necessary when this is pretty a new branch?
Great question. So the issue that we had was the chiller was not functioning properly. And the chiller provides the cold water, which is then delivered to the ventilation units to provide cold air. And so I would say opposite of expectations, if something is going to break, it's going to break in the first 6 to 12 months of installation or when an asset dies. I've used this analogy for the past couple of weeks, similar to when the Navy launches a new ship. When it goes in the water for the first time, they don't just send it to the Persian Gulf on deployment. They give it a 6-month shakedown to break things that don't work. So, well, our shakedown We're not a $2 billion ship, but we are a $15 million building, and our shakedown is deployment. We opened to the public. We had a 1 month where everything was operational with getting staff in, but you need at least 6 to make sure everything functions. Unfortunately, this part didn't function, and the ramification was the entire chiller shut down on 90-degree plus days. So that created an internal temperature that was above, not nominal, but above the working conditions that we like to have our staff and patrons in. And so we decided it was the better option to shut down the building completely and maintain a minimal higher temperature than to fluctuate the temperature up and down, and potentially have a mismatch of communications about when we are or aren't open.
Better hope we don't open any branches at the same time and the shakedown comes. One more question. I think this may be for our CEO. What happens when you have to close a branch? What happens with the staff in that branch?
Good question. So what happens with the staff? There's a couple choices. If there's notice that we're going to be closed, they have the option of going to work at another branch, or they can take PTO. But if it happens to close on maybe the same day when it's an administrative decision, then they're paid for that day.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Facilities Committee or Mr. Parsons? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be at the Glendale branch next month, so we can check on the progress of the shakedown.
I'm telling you.
So, we'll now hear from Mr. Biederman, the Library Foundation update.
All right, so here's an update for June of 2024. The foundation is proud to support the summer reading program. Nurtures a love of books in our next generation of readers, including the youth participating in the Spades Park Kid Librarian Program. The children's librarian, Gaynell German, invited young patrons to curate displays of their favorite books. So many thanks to all the staff who make the summer reading program possible. And in furtherance of that, I don't know if you want to be a part of celebrating young readers. I know I do.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm just looking. I'm not looking at anybody in particular. All right, but Tuesday night, July 30th, is Library Night at Victory Field. So I know I'm excited about it. Baseball and books are two of my favorite things in the world. Baseball and books, and children. Yep, and so it's an annual event to celebrate the culmination of the summer reading program. Look forward to your invitation soon. Last month, there were 143 donors that made gifts. That included Everwise Foundation, the Indianapolis Indians, PNC Foundation, RJE Business Interiors, the Glick Family Foundation, and Woodley Farah Mannion Portfolio Management. So thank you to them. Last month, we gave $24,000 to the library, is supporting adult art programs, the concert series, international festivals and celebrations, preschool package programs, and World Language Book Club. So a big month for the Library Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to, thank you for that report, Mr. Biederman. We'll move on to the report of the CEO, Mr. Gregory Hill.
All right, thank you. Good evening. Good evening, Board President, board members. Before you is the confirmatory resolution 39-2024 as related to financial travel and personal matters that occurs each month between each board members. And if you don't have any further questions, I'd ask for your approval of the resolution.
Resolution 39-2024, the confirming resolution regarding finances, personnel, and travel. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
The resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call.
Mr. Biederman.
Approved.
Dr. Palacio.
Approved.
Dr. Payne.
Approved.
I missed someone.
Murtada.
Dr. Murtada, yes. And Ms. Triple.
Approved.
Thank you.
The resolution passes unanimously. Back to you, Mr. Hill.
Okay, thank you. So my presentation is highlights activities that occurred in the month of June, that occurred in the month of May. The report will include branch programs and PDA programming. We'll also include SRP participation, SRP kickoff, the Star Award winners, the patron engagement survey, and then also I'll give an update on goals for Q2, including the added priorities. Branch program highlights. The first one is the Hallville branch. Just give a shout out to Keith Denich and Monica Taboda, the manager of Hallville. They hosted a successful job fair. The job fair had over 150 participants, which is the most that they've had since they've been doing job fairs. So great job, Hallville. Eagle, they had the Pajama Story Time. It's a hit, and it's not just about reading stories, but also includes singing, arts and crafts, games, and making it a fun-filled event for the whole family. Pajama Story Time will conclude in June with a stuffy sleepover, and the program is consistent following of about 10 families. Sometimes they could get anywhere from 12 to 13, and it also includes a bilingual story time. Again, great job to staff, Tamara Buchanan and Bethany Allison, branch manager. East Washington participated and partnered with Overdose Lifeline and Raphael Health Center. They offered HIV and Hep C testing, food distribution, and connected Inglewood area residents with local resources. And then again, thanks to Josh Crane, manager of East Washington, and the staff for their commitment to well-being to their community. PDA featured Summer Reading Program 2024, the stories so far, and these figures are as of June the 11th. June SRP reading programs, we had 11,965 participants, which is a 3% increase from the same time last year. Group registration includes daycare, summer camps, or school groups. There's a 70% increase in group registration. This year, up to this date, we had 11,322. And the adult summer reading program, we had 4,789 participants. We do have a slight decrease in summer reading program participants for adults, about 8%. We had the kickoff event at 13 locations. We had approximately 1,622 patrons who participated at those 13 locations, included face painting, arts and crafts, games, and then time to read. Time to read was just discussions on how to make time to read during the summer. I had a chance to visit 4 locations. I went to Southport, I went to Beech Grove, I went to Garfield Park and Martindale Brightwood, and I just want to say they all had great programs. But at Southport, the picture you see here was the animal meet and greet. We had 189 patrons who came through for the meet and greet. It was a really good time, a big line for face painting as well. Overall, a great program at all the locations. The next, I want to cover the May Star Award winners. Patron services is Carrie Genovese. Peer support is Adrian Barino Quintanera. Community involvement is Monica Taboda. Sakura Fuqua, Tisha Galarse. Page excellence is Kylie Atkins. Other duties assigned, Alicia Zimonak. And the committee's choice was Timmy Olaniye and then Alexandria Moore. I'm just going to talk about the committee's choice for Alexandria Moore real quick. On June the 1st, when I was out at the kickoffs, I happened to go to Garfield Park, and they had a lot of stuff going on at the branch, a lot of patrons in the building, and a young lady alerted us that someone had been in the restroom for quite some time. So Alex got the keys, went to the door, knocked on the door, make sure anyone was in there was okay, opened the door. Once she opened the door, there was a patron who happened to be, looked like she was unconscious. So Alex was able to administer 2 doses of Narcan, and after the 2 doses of Narcan, the patron came around and EMT was dispatched at that time, and she agreed to take a ride in with EMT and then get checked out. So I know we've had other staff who have administered Narcan before, but for me, actually being there and seeing her do it, I want to commend her, and she was very calm, and she did a wonderful job.
Let's give her a round of applause.
Okay, so we started the patron engagement surveys. This is my graph. Sorry, it's a little hard to read, but the orange is the Mid-South, and then the red is the East region. So we did the patron engagements by region, and thank you to approval of Resolution 27, 2024, which is for us to get new self-checks. When we get the new self-checks, they will allow us to do point of service, staff engagements, and we'll be able to put different information on there. And as Dr. Matat always said, we'll be able to continuously get information about our community. And I just want to say a few things that we had on our patron engagement survey was one of the questions, and the rating was 1 to 3 stars, was the library branch clean? The average was 2.8 out of 3 stars. Overall, how was the customer service during your visit? Also 2.8 stars out of 3. And then the next one was percentage responding yes to the following. Will you visit again? Over 95% of our patrons who took the survey said they would visit again. And were you able to accomplish your goals during your visit? Over 95% of patrons said they were able to accomplish their goals, what they came in for. In your board packet is the full report on the surveys, so you can take a look at that. And if you have any additional questions for me, I'll be happy to answer those as well. Goals for Q2, some of the updates, the behavioral policy. John Helling's doing a great job. Has been meeting with community partners, including the Warren and Pike school staff. We also plan on meeting with Fathers and Family, Stepping Stone, and Wheeler Mission, just to name a few. But there's at least 10 more other communities that we want to meet with to help us with our behavioral policy. Also, the board will be provided an opportunity to give valuable input as well. And then John Helling will deliver an update at the July DPHR committee meeting. At that meeting, he will just give a chance for everybody to ensure that they know where we are on the policy and have a chance to give input. The business continuity plan, we have completed the essential functions. That was done with Adam Parsons, John Helling, Deb Lambert, and myself. We worked on the essential functions for the library. And then we have different teams that's working on other parts of the business continuity plan, and we're going to come together, and our plan is to have that done, I believe, in August. The next one is the SharePoint. The project is moving along well. The talent and development, CMSA, and communications and marketing should be our first 3 departments that will go live, and hopefully we can get those up for everybody by August, and then we plan on having all departments on SharePoint by the end of the year. And a couple of other added priorities, updates, the climate improvement process, we did complete that. ELT was given a presentation by Ice Miller and the racial equity team on June the 14th. We plan on giving a presentation at the July 9th DPHR committee, and then the staff will receive the presentation planned at the July 17th town hall. I will send the full report to all board members once this meeting is over, and you will have access to the full report as well. Lolita talked about the Good Wage Initiative. Lolita also talked about the department head budget preparations, and I do believe that most department heads have had their budget, their proposed budget has been submitted, so we're working on getting that completed. And then also the annual comprehensive financial report. We just had a brief meeting with Crow this evening regarding that. So things are going really well with that. And hopefully, as Lolita said, there'll be a presentation in the July board meeting. And then lastly was the customer service satisfaction. We will continue to work on that. We wanted to go ahead and roll it out earlier, even before we received our new self-checks. But once we get the new self-checks in, we'll be able to roll out something a little bit better to get us some good information and data about how our customers feel about our service. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Any questions for
Not a question,
CEO?
but a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Just want to thank you for making sure that the board does participate in professional development opportunities. And you might want to mention that we did have a professional development opportunity just this past couple of weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, just the past couple of weeks, I think that was our third, either our third or our second board retreat. And we plan on having another one, I believe we plan on having another one in November. And thank you for everyone who participated, and we had a really good session, and I think we all benefited from it, so thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, Dr. Palacio?
I just want to say thanks to Greg for all the work, but particularly being at the programs on weekends and other times while he's also at his, I guess, his regular duties during the week. There was a Saturday I had a question and he answered right away. He said, "Oh, I'm at this branch." So thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Hill. It's a great report, and I appreciate the way you let us know what's going on around the system. I also appreciate your having implemented the recognition of our employees every month and calling their name to give them recognition for the work that they do. I don't know when and how we can take this up, but Ms. Moore did something very courageous that her job calls for her to do. And I also think, I just wonder how we need to respond to that, because I can imagine, and Greg also told me about it, that it's very impactful for this life or death situation. And I am wondering how we should respond. And I know I'd be interested in maybe as first step to share, like, how often does that happen? And then how do we take care of our employees to allow them support and recovery after such events? And you may know that now, but.
I don't know. I did get a report from Andrew Cope, but I didn't bring it with me. I don't have the numbers. But we do provide the wellness days, for if they witness a traumatic event or involved in a traumatic event. So we do provide them support.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions? I may follow up on that. I just wonder how we need to equip our staff, do they feel sufficiently supported, and whether or not those sort of incidents are something that we need to preparing for in a different or new way. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you again, Mr. Hill. Okay, we'll move on. There's no unfinished business, and move to future agenda items. This time is made available for discussion items that are not on the agenda, which are of interest to the library board members, and we give the opportunity to suggest items to be included on future library board meeting agendas. Does anyone have suggestions for the July 2024 board meeting?
I always like to have us share when we go for the professional development, and I don't know who will be the key person for that, but there's always this room for continuous professional development, and how we are approaching it, expending a good amount of money for it. What's the ROI? I think it's important. I think our staff is growing tremendously, and I think having a discussion about professional development and its impact on not just the board, but all of our staff and the way that we continue to grow might be a good item.
Thank you. Any other suggestions? Okay, so noted. Thank you, Dr. Murtada. The next regular meeting will be Monday, July 22nd at the Glendale Branch Library, 3660 East 67th Street. It'll be at 6 p.m. Seeing that all of the business of this meeting has been handled, I declare this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Second.